All right, lovelies. Well, we are officially Monday, July the 3rd. Um, I was meditating again on the process of goal setting, and just a few more reminders came to me to share with the group. And so, kind of recapping a little bit about what we've talked about over the last couple of days is often we're taught that what we want isn't important, and we're taught that we need to make sacrifices to our own personal desires for the greater good of our family or the greater good of the community. And the interesting thing about that is there's some truth to some of that, meaning, from like a holistic perspective, from a perspective of, we're all connected. And yet somewhere along the lines, it gets twisted and turned. And so it's like making personal sacrifices to health and wellness or personal desires. And then if we do that, then I call it like the martyrdom, like being a martyr, right? Like, no, it's okay. That kind of, my grandmother used to do that in her sing-songy voice. It's okay. I can do it all by myself, right? Things like that. And so when we wear our martyr cloak, we basically are, I guess, buying into that we're meant to make these personal sacrifices. And again, it's a really fine line, and I understand that. And so, one of the visuals, even in goal setting, that I was taught a long time ago is think about, we've done this a couple times, but think about, I guess, from an awareness perspective. And so if you put a dot in the middle of of a page, or just in the middle of your mind, like right, the screen of your mind, and you put a dot, and that dot represents everything that you are aware of in the world. And we have an opportunity to expand our awareness. So let's say we have a dot in the middle and then a circle around, right? So if you're making, whether you're doing this in your mind or you're doing this a piece of paper. So awareness is the dot. And then we have this expansion, and we have this opportunity from moving to this dot of awareness to this bigger dot, basically, and expanding our awareness to here. And the way to expand our awareness is to actually think and use the universal laws. And I think that's the piece that so many people aren't aware of, is we think that we have to do something in particular. And the truth is, inspired action will be required. But it's about the expansion process is about being an awareness of the universal laws that are already at play in our life. So it's not even about it's not necessarily about bringing in a new law, but just being an awareness. So that's the awareness piece of the universal laws that are at play. And so, in Raymond Hollywell's book, the 11 Spiritual Truths, he talks about true desire represents the urge of life seeking a fuller expression and is kept alive by the continuous expectation of fulfillment, right? So life wants to express itself with and through us. And if we have this expectation that will be fulfilled using the universal laws, and we can expect that because of the universal laws. And the second thing that Hollywell talks about is no desire is felt until a supply is ready to appear. So if we desire something, it's because the ways and means to create it, to manifest it, are here with us. The challenge is, so we have this where we were of awareness, and we want to expand into this new awareness. The challenge can be the path to expansion. And that it's only a challenge because it seems so simple. And we're looking for something a bit more complicated. So the simplicity of it is following the laws, right? So desire, awareness, step one, desire, and knowing that the desire is there because the supply is there. And then of course the third step is the visualization, the acting as if, the fantasy, and adding the emotion to it, knowing full well that the path will unfold on the journey as to how to get there. The reason that's difficult is that you're here in your goal, and your desire is up here. What's required, right? So along with the expansion process, along with following the universal laws, what's required is change. What's required is the transformation. What's required is us to show up differently, to let go of some old paradigms meaning a series of beliefs that keep us in this place, reassessing maybe some of the values that we're holding on to, awareness or understanding of our behavior, and even maybe asking, am I behaving this way because I've always behaved this way? Is this truly what I believe in? Is this a value that I have, or is it a value that's passed on by my parents? What does that look like? And then following the laws, right? And using the laws, integrating the laws for change. And so the reason, and this has come up quite a bit, over the last week of the Groundhog Day, the reason we're having that, it's just a gentle reminder that we haven't made the necessary, that's the word, the necessary and correct internal, and changes within our personality. And so we're still relying on our old way of being, more even so than the old way of doing, but our old way of being, expecting and wanting different results. And so sometimes that old way of being is developing new habits, right? It's like in weight loss, when I had the curves, and women would join, and they would want to either lose weight or they would want a firm tone. Excuse me. And the answer to that, the solution to that always was the same. It's 80% of what we eat and 20% exercise. And so, and people feel it's 80% exercise and 20% of what's of eating. And I remember like it was yesterday, this woman who was wanting to lose weight, and she was really struggling. And so we were trying to figure out like how to help her. And so she was like, I'm eating really healthy. I'm doing all the things. And so then I said to her, well, would you mind kind of writing down, what you're eating, like so I can take a look at it? Because the math, like, it didn't make sense. And so she tracked her food diary. She did a food diary for me for a couple of weeks. And every time she worked out, she would treat herself, right, to McDonald's and wasn't aware that I think it was like a Big Mac meal, there was like 1,200 calories. And so that was really half of her caloric intake in one meal. And it's just she just wasn't aware of it, right? So she was doing all the things, right, that she thought that she should do, but unaware of this. And so it's kind of what happens when we have our Groundhog Days. It's we're behaving the way that we've naturally behaved to get the results that we're currently experiencing. It kind of makes sense. If we're wanting different results, we're going to need to behave differently. We're going to need to maybe let go of some beliefs that we have. And then we add, and I think we talked about this yesterday, was the stopping points. Where do you stop, right? So whenever we decide that we want something different, the opportunity unfolds for us to be able to create something different. And the immediately when you make the decision that you want to do something, your unconscious, your subconscious mind, oh, this is really, I don't like these words. Hang on. I'm just going to ask for different words. Because we're wired for safety and security, whenever you make a decision to do something new, your unconscious mind, along with your ego, creates a little bit of trepidation, right? It's because it's unknown. And when that happens, there's a pattern of behavior that most human beings have, which is they set a goal, and then like 80% of the time, one doesn't achieve the goal. So it's kind of like that Pareto principle, 80-20. So 80% of the time, we don't meet the goal. And so we've conditioned ourselves to be okay in setting a goal and stopping, right? Because of the conflict, the opportunities, the obstacles, the challenges that come forward. And then it becomes hard is the word I'm getting. It becomes hard, and then we stop. Or it becomes confusing, and then we stop. And so what we're being shown is that always our current results to where we want to go, always an opportunity will present itself, always. But we have to act upon it and integrate the change and show up differently. We have to show up differently. We have to be different, which can be a challenge. We have to do different, which can be a challenge. And then within that challenge is what my mentor calls the terror barrier. All the reasons to not do it show up, right? And so, and it can be really insidious, right? Example, I decided that I'm going on a slow meandering trip through BC on my own. I've never vacationed by myself. And I love driving and I love the mountains, but I've never driven in BC through like a big city like Vancouver. It terrifies me. Like I'm like shitting bricks thinking about driving through Vancouver to get to Jacob, who lives in Victoria. I have to go on a ferry by myself. Like I'm afraid. And so as I start to move energy, excuse me. And so a week ago, in about 3.5 hours, my father has this massive heart attack. So in truth, with a capital T, I am part of, so there's a whole reason why my dad created and manifested that. But I'm also part of the manifestation. What a better way to keep me away from a vacation, driving by myself, than the excuse, the reason my dad's in the hospital. I can't possibly go, right? Which is actually not true. I can go, right? In fact, my mom said to me, you better not cancel your vacation. You need to go. And I said, well, I need to take my turn, right? Sitting with dad. And she said, we have enough family around, Shell. You can go, right? But other people would look at that and go, oh, she's such a terrible daughter. She's gone on vacation, right? So these are the things I'm talking about, the insidiousness of our creations, right? Because my ego, right, was afraid. The divine was like, ooh, an adventure. This is going to be so much fun. We've got you, girlfriend. It'll be okay. You might get lost in Vancouver. You're going to go on a tour. Like, it'll be okay. All of those things. And then there's another part of me who's afraid, right? I can't go away that long. What will it be like to work on the road? Will everyone be okay, right? All of those things. And so that's the insidiousness of it. So what would keep me, what stops me? And I shared this with those of you who were on yesterday. What stops Ranchelle is a fight with a partner or illness. Those are the two things that have stopped me over and over and over and over and over and over again in my life. Those two things. So now when they come up, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? There's my unconscious, right? At an unconscious level, my ego is trying to stop me from doing this thing. So yesterday's kind of assignment was to think about what are the things that stop you, because that will happen, right? So we get stuck. So I'll use that word. We get stuck in the Groundhog Day of this, right? Like things will go sideways, we'll say, and opportunities. But the stuckness comes because worry, doubt, fear enter into the game. And it can be, like I said, really slight and really insidious. I had moments of, and I wasn't spending days thinking, oh shit, I'm driving through the mountains by myself. Can I do this? It was the only thing I was worried about was, this, because I've said I wanted this nomadic lifestyle. Like, will it be as magical as I think it will be? So there was doubt. There's doubt. Will it be as fun as I think it's going to be? There's doubt. Then there's I'm not sure I can drive through Vancouver by myself. What if I get lost? What if I take the wrong turn? What if I end up in the wrong end of Victoria? What if so there was a little bit of fear, a little bit of worry, a little bit of doubt. It wasn't, like I said, I didn't spend hours upon hours. So what are you worried about? What are you fearful about? What are you doubting? And then how you move through that is through the universal laws. The universal law of polarity is my favorite, which is if I'm feeling this, the opposite is also available to me, right? So if I'm feeling worry, doubt, or fear, hope is also there. I'm just feeling the opposite of that. If I'm feeling a lack, right, of something, the abundance of that same thing is there. I'm just seeing it through the lens of lack. What needs to shift within us? It needs to shift within you so you can look at it through a different lens. And that's where the change is. That's where the transformation is. And that can be scary, right? Because we're comfortable where we are. Because if we weren't comfortable, then there would be change. And that's the thing that happens with us. Transformation, change, transcendence, whatever word works for you, happens when you're finally sick and tired of the results that you have. And that's the human condition. That's there's nothing wrong with us, but that is the human condition. And so what else is possible for us, right? And so we can go from that place. So where are you right now? Where do you want to be? What has stopped you in the past, right? What worries, what doubts, what fears, what situations, what occurrences, what kind of environment, what are the results? So that's really, really important that you're aware of that. And then thinking about what laws, universal laws, you need to implement in your life, integrate in your life so that you don't, that won't be the same effect. Right? And creation and the manifestation is simple. I would say that it feels less easy because of our ego, but it's simple. Decide what you want, make the decision of what you want, right? Imagine, here's a great, I forgot about this one, hang on. One of my best friends, this is what she does. She said, I imagine what I want, Ranchelle, and then I immediately think of something I would do if that happened, like an event that would happen. And so what she imagines, what she plays in her mind is the event right after. right? So she's like, it's like I have the thing, right? I created the thing, achieve the thing, and what's the first thing I would do after that? And so she plays that scenario, that first thing that she does right after that. She plays that scenario out, and that's part of her visualization process. And some of you may feel like you can visualize once, you're one and done. And if you feel that like internally, that like you can make a decision once, you can visualize once, and you don't need to do it again, then honor that within you and just use it as an experiment. And meaning when does the outcome, when does the visualization process manifest for you, right? Or are you like a regular, like, does it need to be a habit for you, right? And to do that. For me, I've experimented both ways, and it needs to be, it's part of a daily ritual that I have, right? Is especially if I'm wanting to manifest something material. And for me, it's a habit. I have to think about it on a regular basis, not obsess about it, right? But I have to think about it on a regular basis, and then it unfolds for me. And everyone's different, and I know that. So just really tap in and tune into your own divine self to see where you're at with that. Awesome. Are there any questions? We're good. Beautiful. Okay. If there's questions, maybe it's a question of maybe it's a future you has a question. Let me know. I'm happy to answer it. And have a great day. Mwah. Love you all.